vision is different than a goal or an objective. So to get past average, you understand better than anyone, we have to get to a place that's beyond our current capabilities or what we think is our current capabilities. And we need to suspend three things: how much money we have, how much time we have, and how much ability we have. Because that's all stuff that we can collaborate with other people if we're clear enough about our vision. Vision is the rarest commodity in the world, and it drives all value, and dollars follow value. So if we can create a vision that's so compelling it would take our lifetime to accomplish it, we create a life we don't want to retire from.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Average Sucks podcast. Super excited about today. And one of the biggest reasons is this entire show is about people that live above average lives, have above average information, and people like to dominate at what it is they do. And people are really dedicated to their passion, the pursuit of really making a difference in the world. So our guest today, I got to tell you, we had a drive up from the airport. He's out here for his show at the Improv, and he just sold out Vegas here a couple days ago. Is one of the most powerful entrepreneurs that I know, because he's found a way to not only serve and help other entrepreneurs, but he really on a regular basis is developing himself into, or I would call it like a super entrepreneur. And Garrett Gunderson, what's so powerful about what he does is he's found his traits that he has, from using comedy to business to life to becoming even a better father, a better husband, and everything, dialing it all in to help all of us do those same things. So we all talk about on a regular basis how to get ahead financially, and whether it's from a tax perspective, whether it's from a wealth perspective, it's one of the most complicated things in the world. So why not use the power of language, the power of comedy, the power of understanding to show you exactly how to take your money, your wealth, and make your economics be where it is they're capable of being. So without that said, and a further said, Garrett Gunderson, super excited that you're here. And if we could only bring them to that conversation we had in the car, everybody's going to win today. So
we
welcome
did capture
to the show.
Some of that, so who knows?
We got it. So
I think
absolutely.
that like average sucks, so we're above average height.
Yep.
Above average depth to our voice.
Absolutely.
Who's
got a deeper voice?
You definitely have a deeper voice.
I'm just doing that. It's kind of like doing the extra push-ups for the beach.
You're taller,
I'm flexing
and you have
right
a deeper
now.
Voice.
All right.
But I have more hair.
I got to tell you, and you, my friend, at this point, have sold more copies of this New York Times bestseller, Killing Sacred Cows. And I got to tell you a story about this book real quick, and everybody's got to go find this and get it. I'm sure he'll show you how. If not, you can Amazon while you're watching this right now.
And the good news, it's in stock. It was $125 for a while on Amazon because it was out of stock. So
original OG version. Quick story about this. 2009 or 10, I get a Facebook message, literally from a guy I don't even know. I don't know how powerful your message is. This guy, somehow, before bots were existed, dude, get this book. And he had no idea he got a buyer that buys everything. I mean, it doesn't matter what infomercial I watch, I buy everything. And I got this, and in the middle of the night, I think I had to download the Kindle app. You might have been my first Kindle like book that I ever had on an old iPad 1. And I downloaded the book, started reading it, and I said, holy shit, my parents misguided me when it comes to money, and everything I learned in school was wrong. And this book was a huge eye opener for me. It took little concepts of Rich Dad Poor Dad and took them and it was absolutely incredible. So I got to tell you, this is amazing. I don't want to compare the two things, but
when I did the audiobook of it, I waited a long time. I did it in 2018, and when I was reading it, I was like, damn, I can't believe I knew this stuff back then. I was impressed.
So let me ask you this. What are you up to these days? What's going on? I know you're here for a comedy show, which I'm super excited about. I want to talk about the transition from business entrepreneur, changing people's lives financially, to comedy. I want to get there. Yeah. Okay, well, let's just start there. What makes somebody do that? How do you do that? How do you just go do that?
It really started to happen in 2017 when I took a whole summer off and went to Italy. So that was a big deal for me because
my wife's going to kill me if she watches this. She's wanting to go to Italy, so we have to go to Italy now. Okay.
All right,
got it. All right, good.
It's going to be expensive
for
you.
Thank you.
But you're going to love it.
Edit that part out. Okay. Anyways, go ahead.
So, I always wanted to go to Italy for an extended period of time. I'd taken my wife one time for a week.
Definitely edit this part out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, but it was hard for me to imagine doing a summer there because my great-grandfather came over from Italy because he couldn't put food on the table. Literally, not like how we figuratively say that. He literally wasn't making enough money. Came to the United States, became a goat herd, then eventually became a coal miner. So my grandfathers were coal miners. My dad was a coal miner. So to think about going to Italy for a summer was beyond where my mindset was at the time.
Wow.
And my level of am I worthy of that? Can I really do that?
Even at your level of success, you were doubting yourself.
I mean, because I was still addicted to work and I was still in the grind, even though I had plenty of money, it was still this machine that I felt like I was an integral piece of it. But my CEO was like, let's figure this out when I said I want to do it. So I booked the villa. That's the key. is because there's no backing out at that point in my mind. Right?
Deposit down.
Like I'm like, all right, we got the villa, and then we went to work on it. And the first 2.5 weeks I was there, our numbers were down in the business. There was less sales. I'm looking at the Slack channel. I'm going, maybe this was a mistake. I was also just like not sure what to do with myself because I had no schedule. It was just like, what do you want to do today? And it was like, there's no agenda. So it took me 2.5 weeks and getting really drunk one night and then talking to my wife and being like, what concert should we go see before we're dead?
And this is in Italy.
In Italy, and Elton John happened to be performing in Italy. So I'm like, cool, we're definitely going to Elton John. And that night, everything changed because, one, my team started to figure out marketing without my involvement at all. The numbers started to change, and I was able to kind of relax, and we just started having a whole bunch of fun. And when I came back, it was like a renaissance for me. I realized like having a hobby, having some downtime was a burst of creativity. And right when I got back, I took my wife to a baseball game, which are boring at times, let's be honest. And so I'm telling jokes, and she's like, that's kind of funny. I was like, I heard that as your comedic
you
god.
were funny at a baseball game.
Yeah, and the fact that my wife said I was funny. Like, my wife still says that her friend Gelsey is the funniest person on the planet, and I'm a comedian. It's hurtful shit, man. You know what I'm saying?
To this day, she says that?
She does.
All right, we're going to get her in next for an intervention work. But
but she said I was kind of funny, and then I spoke at Keith Yackey's event, and he introduced me as effing hilarious.
Okay.
Like, days later. So I told some jokes, people laughed, and I called my buddy who's a comedian. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to do some comedy. Because as a kid, I always loved telling jokes because I could tell jokes without getting in trouble.
Were you a class clown?
Well, I wasn't really class clown because my mom would beat my ass if I were.
Okay.
But outside of the classroom, I was definitely,
Okay. Playground.
Playground, like
clown.
Appropriate time clown.
Okay.
So my uncles were Mormon, but they could swear and tell jokes, and it was like they didn't get in trouble. My other side was Catholic, and those uncles were wild, and I was like, this is amazing. This, like, my family laughed loud. They had fun, so I was like, that's awesome. But it wasn't until I made my wife laugh and then came back from Italy that I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this as a hobby. And so I booked an open mic, did good enough that my buddy's a comedian. He's like, you're going to open for me.
Was this the show that you did that you sent me, the one with about your son? There was one that you have with there was I don't
like
give
in a
away
round
the joke, in a round, in a round room, okay, got it.
That was 2 years after my first open mic.
Okay,
so
because that cracked,
and that's the night I got discovered.
Really?
Yeah. That's
talk to me about the process of getting discovered. I'd love to hear this.
Yeah. So it's funny because I live in Utah. It's not like there's an epicenter of comedy in Utah. I mean, there's Wise Guys, which is a really cool club, and there's comedians that show up, but it's not like you're going, oh, you're a comedian. It's usually like, are you in New York or LA? That's what most people think. But that night,
from Salt Lake,
the guy that I was opening for was runner-up on Last Comic Standing, and the guy that produced the show happened to be there that night. And I got out and did 10 minutes, and he said from the time he shook my hand, he knew that I would do a special. He's like, look, I'm 22 for 22 of figuring out like if someone's going to be good at this and get him a special. And so he's like, I could just tell from the time I met you. I was like, okay. So I had a good set. You saw that set.
That was fantastic. My wife and I, we watched it that night because normally I cannot get her attention. When it's bedtime, she's ready, like kids, everything. Yeah. It's like, we're done. Everything's done. I'm out. We've been up late from events, and literally we stayed up watching the entire thing, and we're cracking up. She goes, he is good. So when I told her, I said, you're in town this weekend, she goes, babysitter, we got it. We'll be at the show.
Love it. So yeah, that happened. And it took me like a year from that time to like develop because I had 20 minutes that I'd done. I think I'd maybe done 33 minutes at an event. But it's like to go from that to doing a special with like Emmy-winning producers and Emmy-winning video people. That was a bit of a leap. So it took me until November of 2020 to finally be like, I'm ready to write this. I'm ready to go and do this.
Got it. So this is my question.
Some insecurities along the way.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So there's people watching this right now. So you have mastered the art. Like if I would love you to give your backstory here real quick, because I'm going to ask you to do what I would call the more annoying thing. I'm not going to say, tell me about yourself. So I'm going to put this into perspective. How would the audience understand if you had like 90 seconds, 60 seconds to explain what you dedicated the 15, 20 prior years to financially, like teaching, what's in the books, what you've done, and then transitioning, I want to talk about the insecurity over to, because that's a big thing. A lot of people watching this have a business, but there's a business they're dreaming of doing. A lot of people watching this have a great job. Bingo. Yeah. And I believe this is twisted. I believe you found a way to do both.
Yeah.
I believe you're doing what you love to do, that you're here to do on earth in a way that you love to do it, which is mind-blowing. We're talking about that in the car. I get the chills saying it. Like comedy and finances together, that's ridiculous.
It's blue ocean because who's doing comedy and finances?
It's absolutely insane.
I'm not the funniest comedian, but I'm probably the funniest financial.
You're the funniest dude. I've been to financial events. This shit's boring, right?
Yeah.
Shit's boring. So 90 seconds, really straight up, what you've been telling people for years. And because I know a lot of them are going to find you. And I'm going to tell you, find his work, find out what he does. Your bank account, your business deserve it. And if you ever want to, I don't want to use the retire word because none of us are really going to retire. But if you ever want some level of not having to worry as much and really build this machine on the side so your business is cute and nice and cute, but your machine creates wealth for you, talk about that first dedication you had, because I'd love them to like, no, this is who you are, what's seeping out of you, and then the comedy we got to add to it.
In June of 1998, I started in finance, standard, normal stuff, peddling life insurance, peddling mutual funds, and then the year 2000, the year 2000 happens, the market goes down, and then things got real for me. I was like, what am I going to really do? Because I'm not just going to tell people they're in for the long haul. I'm not just going to sit here and tell them to, dollar cost average, because as you know, average sucks.
Average
right?
sucks, yeah.
And that's what dollar cost averaging is. It's like, here's a way to be average.
Yep.
No, it's not for me. So I learned how to be efficient with money, how do people plug their leaks, from taxes to interest to non-performing investment fees to insurance costs that aren't creating the right structure. So I did that, and I really focused and studied that heavily. But I also realized if they didn't have the right perspective, no amount of money was going to help them. And that if they weren't financially independent, they were still going to be stuck trading time for money. So I got really good at helping people become financially independent within 10 years, plug their financial leaks, keep more of what they make without having to budget, and investing back in themselves so they could actually add more value in the world. And most importantly, when money wasn't an obstacle and it became more of an ally, be able to have a vision that wasn't limited by time, money, or ability because they could collaborate.
Were these people wealthy to get started?
No, not really. I mean, like, not your definition of wealth, like what most wealth advisors were chasing, which is people with, tens of millions
Money in
of dollars
motion. They just sold their Google stock.
I'm like, hey, I'm looking for entrepreneurs. I'm not looking for startups. Didn't work with startups.
Yep.
Startups are speculative. Tons of them don't make it, and they're just looking for some big payoff. I'm looking for entrepreneurs it's their business. They're founders. They're putting all their money into it. They're trying to figure it out, but they're exhausted.
Yep.
That was the people, because that's where I came from, and that's what I knew.
Got it. So the people we have watching this right now, and the reason this is exciting is because you gave an answer. So let me ask you this. Let's just put you on the spot. One technique, one idea, one little thing that everybody and their mother should be doing. They might know it already, some of these folks, but what would be like one or two things that you'd say like immediately we implemented this?
They should maximize their tax arbitrage opportunities, which simply means stop spending $1 to save 37 cents.
Got it.
That's deductions. Go for tax credits. You spend $1, you get more than $1. So R&D credits would be one. Employee retention credits, depending on when they're listening to this, would be one. I've bought art and donated it, get $2 back for every $1 I've spent on it. If you own a lot of property, you could learn about conservation easements. If you want to buy
Tax
property,
credits versus write-offs.
Yep, like credits versus write-offs is a game changer. Most people are losing wealth trying to save tax. That's called let the tax tail wag the dog. I'm like, only spend money if you are going to spend it anyway, or you're getting more money back for the money you spent. Most people are getting a portion of what they spent because they hate paying the government so bad that they destroy their wealth.
Got it. Okay. Right there. That's the hot topic. And this is not something that people need to go Google, figure out how to do. You have this all laid out for people, correct?
Yeah, and I actually am going to put out a video on YouTube that just lays out the entire
So they can go to YouTube. Okay, good.
They can even go there.
Yeah. Okay. So GarrettGunderson.com or find you on YouTube.
YouTube.com/Garrett Gunderson TV.
Okay. Got it. Okay. We'll make sure to add that. So the reason I bring it up, it's a mindset. So you were teaching mindset. So secretly you were on the
money's the hook.
Money's the hook because everybody wants more money.
Right.
But secretly you were changing people's minds.
Right. And you're
like a money missionary.
Well, I am from Utah.
Yeah, money missionary from Utah.
Yeah, I look like Utah Jesus.
You are Utah Jesus.
Yeah.
I was gonna.
If
I got
he
a lot of people.
Longer,
that's
where the gray hair came from.
Absolutely,
he would have been gray, dude. Think of all the stress he was under.
Yeah, absolutely. He had a lot of things to do. We got to get
lepers.
We got to lepers. We got to do all kinds. They got to live up to Moses. There's a lot of stuff going on. Okay, so your hook's money. The mindset is what you're really teaching, what you're really thinking about, right? Mm-hmm. And getting people in the game and that really is what gets them to stay. And then working on your own mindset, strong, confident person when you get up there on stage, you're sharing this stuff. But you had this dream of being a comedian.
Right.
Talk to me about that, because it's frustrating sometimes when you could teach someone else how to do it, but you still weren't doing the thing. What was that transition like to really walk somebody from just doing this to this? Because I think what happened, if I'm not mistaken, they were two separate things for a minute. There was comedy.
Yeah,
Garrett?
I might checker some jokes into a speech, but that's different because there's no danger in that and there's no uncertainty.
Okay.
Like you've seen me speak, I've seen you speak. If I'm going to speak on money, I'm good.
Okay.
Like I know what to say. It's like I look at money speeches like a really good jazz musician.
Yep.
You could put them in any band and they know what to do as long as they know the cadence, like is it a 4/4 timing or what is it? Are we in B flat? Like they're going to be able to sound like they've been playing with that band forever.
100%.
And that's how I felt about finance. Fit me into any event if I talk about finance, which meant I was not excited about speaking at the same level of the uncertainty and the immediate feedback of comedy. Because you don't know. Every crowd's different. Every experience is different. I might say something I've never said before. I might have someone not react. I might have someone heckle me. Like all that kind of stuff is so exciting. And at the same time, when people laugh, they remember 3 times more. And when people laugh, they're not worried about the future or they're not ruminating in the past. They're simply present. And I think society and human beings are not present anymore because there's so much noise, there's so much confusion, there's so much complexity, there's so much division. And I feel like I have this secret elixir of how to create connection.
Got it. So you're taking all your years of speaking.
Years of speaking, so I have stage presence and comfort.
Now we got comedy over here. And you were able to merge these two together. Right. Walk us
Tonight's not going to be very financial when you come to this. Like I'm just doing new material.
I love it.
Where my first comedy special, tons of finance in it. Talked inflation, talked Wall Street, talked tax, and made it funny.
I don't think anybody's even thought about that before.
Yeah, I mean, there's like little vignettes of it. Like if you watched Hassan Minaj's Patriot Act, he did stuff on finance in that kind of format. Like there's comedians that did some funny stuff on student loans at one time. Like there's little pieces, but there's not really a category yet.
And you're making it.
But there is politics. So you're not supposed to talk about politics. There is religion. You're not supposed to talk about religion. Money is the other one you're not supposed to talk about. I'm like, great. Most comedians couldn't talk about money because they don't know much about money.
Because they're
and the few that have a lot of money, they don't have a lot of money because they're great investors. Typically, they have a lot of money because they built up a brand and a career. Like I wouldn't take investment advice from most of them because
they got rich being a comedian.
Yeah, it's like cool. You just fill up this stadium and people pay you.
Oh, that's easy.
And then they use your brand for commercials. It's like that's common.
So walk me through this because this is going to help a lot of people, and this is an interesting direction. The transition period, going from, and I don't know how much you've thought about this before, but like really understanding the frustration. You teach mindset, and I even have this with things with myself. Like I have to then go do the work, and even though I teach it to someone, it may take me 3 weeks to get something. I could help them in a minute. You said a few seconds ago that there was a point where you get uncertainty from what you're doing now. Did it get to where, I don't want to say boring, that's the wrong word, but did the magic that at the beginning in 2002 and 3 that you got from new stages and things, when you get great at something and it becomes automatic, does that go away?
Yeah, it does. So I headlined at my hometown club on a Friday and a Saturday.
Okay.
And on a Friday, I did my American Ream stand-up set, which I've done a lot. I rehearsed a lot. It's very much like setup and punchlines. And 15 minutes in, I got bored. And
in your own presentation,
45 minutes in my comedy, I was like bored because I said the word I don't know in the teens. Meaning, I don't know if I want to tell this joke, but I would say the word I don't know out loud. And so at the end of that day,
it wasn't part of your skit.
It's just that I was like, I don't want to tell that joke again. There's nothing that matters to me in that joke anymore. It's not fresh. So the next night, there was this woman, Tanya, that came, and she's a great coach, and she had done some work for me. And she came Friday, and I said, hey, would you want to come back on Saturday? Because it's going to be a different night. And what I did is I just tossed away all my jokes. I wrote on some 3x5 cards some stories I thought that I should tell. And I just listened to it today on the airplane just to prepare a little bit for tonight because I think I'll use some of those stories. And I just was in the danger of like, how's this all going to work? And I was in the moment, and it was an amazing set. Like I didn't care whether the crowd was laughing because I was connected to them. I had moments where I'd go 30 seconds just telling a story that had no punchline just to get to the next thing. And they were with me and they were cool with it. Then I would tell something. But the thing in comedy that I listened to my set from Vegas that I just did last week, and there was 10 minutes of that set that was completely unplanned. Some dude kept delay laughing in the front row. And when we said,
is that an actual term?
I don't know. I'm just making it up right now. I was like, we said, hey, how'd you get here? He goes, I woke up. And I was like, oh, we have a comedian in the crowd because it was me and my the guy Ian that I'm on tour with. And so then he starts delayed laughing. I'm like, you said you're awake, but I don't believe you. I'm like, this is like 2 shows for me. I tell a joke, the crowd laughs, then you laugh later. It's twice the fun. I'm like, are you on Zoom? Is there a delay? I thought this was in person. And I'm just hammering him. He's laughing, all impromptu, all on the spot. And that spontaneity creates excitement every time. I'm slightly nervous for tonight. I can't remember the last time I was nervous to speak.
It's fantastic.
You
And
know,
you got all
I'm
your
like,
buddies here too, which is going to be a whole interesting thing.
right. I got all my friends saying, I hope you don't suck tonight. And I'm like, yeah, me either. I don't
So
wanna
what is
suck.
that? Who did that motivational speech? Hope you don't suck.
Joe
tonight.
Polish, of course.
Joe,
I mean, come
Joe
on,
head motivator. Don't suck tonight.
Don't suck. I'm inviting people. Don't mess it up.
Gotta love Joe. Yeah, go check him out too.
It's his
I gotta
form of
tell you,
love.
Joe will love all over you. Don't suck tonight. Okay, so
Yeah, he's also saying to Ian, who's funnier, you or Garrett?
he's motivating you.
I like, great. Let's go ahead and see if we can divide this tour called Coming Together right from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. So before you even get into this, I got to tell us about the tour and tell us what's going on, because this will come out. There should be some of the dates involved.
Yeah, and by the way, I do have a process of how you deal with the insecurities.
Okay,
and I've documented.
I'm going to get back to that in a second, but we're going to go through
the tour. Last year, I did a 16-city tour, sold out most of the dates, and it was hard. I sold a house last year that we lived in for 9 years. I bought a new house. My best friend moved. I sold my business. I did a comedy special. Too much. I know average sucks, but there's a certain point where you're like, maybe just take a breath and take it just a little bit slower.
Does make this year look easier.
So this year I'm like, cool, I'm just going to do a couple headlines a month rather than a week. And what that does is give me some breathing room to write and to hang out with my family and to stay healthy, because I definitely gained some weight on the tour last year.
Hotels and food.
So we're just going to keep going 2, maybe 3 shows a month into perpetuity till I'm ready to film my special. And the special is called Life After Debt, DEBT.
Interesting.
On the Financial Line.
Yeah.
And Marty Callner's directing it. And Marty just did The Hall for Netflix. He won an Emmy with Seinfeld. He did Chris Rock's Kill the Messenger. George Carlin was his best man. He did the first ever MTV music video.
Stuff.
And we're just so connected. He loves it. And so he's the reason that my comedy special is going to come out this year.
I'm excited about that.
So,
I'm super excited about that. I'm going to share that with everybody as well. So the reason I did the whole little shift in the loop here
and
right
Garrett
now.
B. Gunderson, B as in boy,
That's
is where you can go to the site that has the comedy tour.
Got it.
I have GarrettGunderson.com. That's a general
You
website.
got to put the B in the middle.
Garrett B. Gunderson.
Yeah. For Be Great.
As Be Great,
Yeah. But just the letter B.
Don't bitch, just show up.
Just show up, and just don't suck. As Garrett would say.
Don't suck.
Don't suck. Okay, so the reason I jumped over there real quick, I want to finish that thought. It seems like we're all over the place, but my people are used to jumping around. So with that said, to get back to the loop that we had, you had a process for this. You didn't have a process
Let's
prior.
just keep loops open and then close them by the end so
close them
people
by
stay
the
on,
end
right?
so they could figure it out. Yeah. So my question for you is, you didn't have a process prior, so you didn't walk into this, okay, I got a perfect process, I'm going to pull it off the bookshelf. What I'm going to grab from my bookshelf is how to deal with insecurities. You figured it out in the moment?
Yeah, so I figured it out of sheer not sleeping and going, how am I going to do this thing that seems impossible?
Was that the question you kept asking?
I was like, how am I going to pull this off?
Okay.
Like, how's this going to happen? And so anything, whether it was the first time I wrote a book or whether it's the first time I did comedy, I outlined the process. The very first thing is co-creation. So just finding one other person that I'm now speaking it to that's going to create accountability or that's going to help me create. So when I'm like, all right, I want to do stand-up, I call Marcus, who was runner-up on Last Comic Standing. I'm like, I want to do a set. What are you doing tomorrow? Can we sit down and go over these jokes I have? He goes, absolutely. So now I'm in co-creation. I've got more accountability. I've got more support.
Huge.
Someone that inspires me. Someone that encourages me. Like he texts me, I know you're going to crush it tonight. I just did a set for him on Friday a couple nights ago. People know when we record this, so let me just say that. But co-creation. But the second step, this is the key. Eliminate escapism. When we get to a place, or especially me, but this I think is a thing for humanity, where we're uncomfortable, escapism starts to take over. So escapisms can be as simple as getting caught up in a TV series or a movie character rather than our own reality. When we don't want to deal with reality, it's easy to tap out and, just numb out with the news or social media or some other distraction, because then we don't know the price of a real relationship, especially the one with ourselves. So I have to look at my escapisms and go, what are these escapisms that I'm coming up against, and actually address it. So the escapisms for me might be sports talk radio. I'm not even watching the games, but I'm listening to stupid sports talk radio for no reason other than I don't want to face this insecurity or this uncomfortable situation. So I have a co-creator. Now I'm looking at my escapisms. And the best thing I do for my escapisms is I start my morning ritual right away, starting with my 5-minute journal. What am I grateful for? What am I setting my intention for? Getting my productivity planner, and then making sure I'm picking up my guitar, just like something that's nourishing to my soul. Do a little bit of a workout, make coffee, have a sip of coffee with my wife, and then all of a sudden I've set up my day in a way that I started without numbness or escapism or avoiding who I am. I've found a way to increase my power.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's like people do their cold shower in the morning. They wake their ass up.
Right,
This
yeah.
is way more comfortable, but powerful.
Right.
I love it. So you eliminate the escapism, and then it
Yep.
doesn't have a chance to enter into your body.
Right. And
Right
if
after
that
that.
escapism is more than I can handle,
Yep.
then it's about conversations with people that are either my peer or a mentor, so I don't suffer that alone. And then I'm going to get out of that
About
faster.
the escapism?
About I'm facing an insecurity, I'm struggling,
Got
I
it.
don't want to deal with this, I'm concerned. And most people are afraid to admit those things because they think it makes them look weak when we're vulnerable, but it's actually the access point to getting past that insecurity.
It's what you're working on.
So it's like, and I don't care if that's assisted with therapy or whether it's a conversation with someone that you respect or whatever it is. But what I find is that moves me out of it so fast. And now I'm back into the third step, which is any excuse that comes up, it's time to delegate all that completely off my plate. So
Give me a couple examples of those.
all right. So, I'll give you stupid examples. I'll give you the more profound, subtle examples.
Either one.
Like, there's a lot of people that go like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that, but I was committed to clean the garage, so I got to clean out the garage. So it's like they don't really need to do that, but it becomes that like thing
Yep.
that's their excuse. Or they're
Yep.
like, oh, you know what I need to do? I haven't returned this phone call. I got to check email, or it's all the busy work that comes into our life. And I'm talking about permanently deleting some of this stuff.
Got
Like I don't have email. I mean, I have like one private email that if people email me and they're like, hey, you never responded to that, I'm like, well, I'm a texter because I could get back to that quick, and I don't have anyone's agenda to tell me what to do.
Wow.
Every other email goes to someone on my team, and I don't respond to it.
Okay.
So that was just a way, because I
powerful.
noticed that if I didn't delegate that, it was an easy way not to write. It was an easy way not to perform. And then when I'm in delegation, I'm also looking at that co-creation at the next level. So I'm going, all right, I need to rehearse, but I want to rehearse on my terms. So when I did November 15th of 2020, start writing the comedy special, film it April 15th of 2021, that's a short period of time. I don't want to go to comedy clubs and do a 3-minute open mic. So I set up 5 Zooms a week. Zoom comedy is harder than live comedy because of the delay.
The delay, yeah.
And if I could be good at Zoom comedy, I could be good on stage. So 5 to 6 every day, I'm doing that. So I had to delegate anything that I would normally do from 5 to 6. So delegation becomes this thing that removes our excuses when we face that escapism. And then the final step is whatever vision we have, I still feel like we'll be limited based upon our capabilities. So then I look at collaboration where I leverage the capabilities of people that in the areas that I'm not adequate are extraordinary. So that would be Marty telling me, hey, look, I'll consult you on your project. And what I want you to do is figure out your happy accidents on stage. Don't let cameras bother you, and don't let slip-ups bother you. That will be the magic that we capture that becomes the best part of the special.
The slip-ups.
Right. And then he's like, and
That's good.
I don't
Coaching.
like the venue that you chose. We're going to have a venue scout find a better venue that has a balcony and better shots. And we're bringing in these 8 camera guys. And this guy, Simon, that was won an Emmy for lighting on Dancing with the Stars, and Tom Lenz that did Chappelle's setup. I'm like, okay, this is much bigger than where I was at in collaboration, because I'm leveraging the best skills in the world to elevate me. But if I didn't deal with my escapism, no chance I'm having that conversation.
Got it.
If I'm
Because you're
not
so busy
delegating,
watching a show on Netflix.
no chance I have time to do those things.
This is huge.
So it's co-create. One other person supports and inspires you.
Yep.
Someone that brings accountability to move out of scarcity into creation. Eliminate your escapisms. Escapism sometimes are where people are hiding from their problems or running from their problems. Hiding is playing not to lose. Running is playing to win. If you create the game before you begin, you've already won. So that's the key, is to win before, because you're not playing someone else's game. You define your own rules up front, and then you've already won from day one. And the work is the win. You're not looking for just an outcome. The process becomes the enjoyment. I'm not going, oh, I just crushed on stage, that'll be good for the special. I'm going, I crushed on stage and that was a fun night. I'm going to enjoy that night, because that's part of the process. It's not just, and when we start to focus on the tasks instead of just the outcomes, and master the tasks and find a romantic nature in those tasks, the outcomes become secondary and a byproduct of who we are as human beings. And so those escapisms were tough, because I had a shit set the night before. I had this idea. I think I heard Bill Burr say,
I love Bill Burr.
he's amazing. And so he's like, have a really good rehearsal the night before, like, so that you just feel good before you film your special. Well, I had a rehearsal of only Zoom people, all my friends who couldn't fly in, and half of them are on mute or they're going off their camera, and I'm just like in my head and I'm tired, and it was just terrible. Because what I learned is, in comedy, if I'm having a thought in my head that I'm not speaking out loud, it's never funny. you get to hear the first thing I think. And if I don't give you the first thing I think, it destroys the enjoyment of the moment and it destroys the funny. So I was in my head the whole time. And at the end, Sally Hogshead, I see you have her book back there. She goes, hey, this is really extraordinary and it takes a lot of courage, and just tell us about your process. And for 10 minutes, I talk about the process, and my manager, Barry, goes, who was that guy the last 10 minutes? That was who needs to show up tomorrow. He goes, there was something different before that. And I said, oh yeah, I was really present and I wasn't in my head. He goes, all right, figure it out. So the next morning, I was like, every thought I have, the audience will hear. And I was on stage for 4 hours. I'd never done more than a 33-minute set, and now I'm on stage for 4 hours. And at one point, I go, I'm tired in my head. So I just stopped, had a drink of water. I go, it's awesome that you guys are here tonight. Truly feels like love. This is so much fun. And I went back into my jokes. My son
You couldn't
yawned.
even have scripted that.
Yeah, my son yawned. I'm like, oh my God, my son just yawned. How great is it that I'm filming a special and I can't even keep his, he's yawning. And then I'm like, oh God, my aunt's here. Remember when I peed the bed at your house because I was worried about World War III? And what happened was everyone felt connected, and I wasn't having a separate conversation. So that's the work that comes with, dealing with escapisms and insecurities, and then just being willing to be present.
100%. What I love about this idea is a couple seconds ago what you just did. I watched you come alive right here, and I watched you talk about what you're passionate about. And is it lighting people up? Is it making them laugh, or is it making them learn, or is it both?
It's a little bit of both, but I will say I'm really working to just enjoy myself. And if people want to come along for the ride, that's cool too.
So you secretly want people to enjoy their lives?
Look, man,
Not secretly, but outwardly.
I did Carson Wealth Group last week.
Yep.
And there were a few jokes that didn't land. And I was so comfortable in those moments. And I said, are you guys not laughing because you feel like you're a bad person if you laugh at that joke? I know you're all Midwestern people. I said, but it's cool. It's cool. You don't have to laugh for me and enjoy myself. And I just had a conversation with them. And by the end, they were all enjoying the hell out of it. And we had these great conversations afterwards. But yeah, I think that there's this part of the brain, the frontal lobe, that's Broca. And if you can break through Broca, Broca's like, well, what's this like? What do I already know? How do I compare this? If I can get past comparison, I can get to the reality of where they can truly feel connected and learn something. And that's really cool, because then there's a totally different conversation. And look, after I speak, people are like, that dude's super intense. Some people approach me, some don't. You approach me because it's never intense for you. But after comedy, I get 10 times the number of conversations.
So you're saying more people are comfortable listening to you. You found you're using comedy as no different than if I use the skills that I've learned over the years. I'm not going to take the time to get into right now, but people watching understand my background with communication. You're taking that up a whole nother level. So years of speaking, communicating, and then adding this element of laughter, increasing the amount. I mean, every drug in the world. I mean, you got the dopamine for the excitement, the fear of, is he going to pick on me, with the cortisol, right? You're connecting with themselves. You get the oxytocin, you get the whole room coming together.
Yeah.
Freaking straight up drug dealer, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting. Watching you be able to do this. So what's been your biggest win, like, out of all this? Like, what's been your hottest, best win? And I don't mean the moment, like from stage. I don't mean like the biggest payday. I don't mean the biggest, and a payday doesn't have to be financial. Payday could be the compliment.
Enjoyment, yeah.
What has been the biggest win in the last several years being on this journey?
My 14-year-old son opened for me on the night of the special.
He's doing comedy too?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's what his career path will be. I'm not pushing.
Wait, hold on. He's doing comedy? He's even learning it at this age?
Yeah, I was just watching a comedian I love, and I'm going to go see when he comes to Utah in November. But his opener in this massive auditorium was not even close to as good as my son's opener. It was a similar joke, okay? The joke was, hey, we wore masks during COVID, and I didn't realize how bad my breath stinks. Well, my son said, can't we just get like a mint inside of these things? And he's like, that's why I'm not good at wearing it. I just don't want to smell my breath all day. He says, so if you're a germaphobe, well, you probably shouldn't touch me. He goes, you know what? I'm a 14-year-old boy. You definitely shouldn't be touching me. Right? So he comes with this pedophile angle, and the other one was just like talking about bad breath. And I'm like, dude, my son crushed it. And by the way, he elevated the energy of the room before I went up. So when I came up, the crowd was like, oh my God, that kid just crushed. And it just brought like such a sense of calm and fun. And I envisioned over and over walking out on that stage that night that filmed, and then I just have this like thing I do at the very end where it's like a poem. And when I said that, man, I was just it was so in the moment. It felt so good. and the fact that my son opened for me, and it was just, I don't know, that was definitely a highlight. But my kids get to watch me struggle. They get to watch me like not know my lines at times, or try to figure out a joke and have my wife be like, I wouldn't say that on stage. I think you got some work to do.
You got to fight through whether you're going to listen to her or not.
So they don't just watch like Garrett the businessman and the way that people treat me in business, which is very respectful and good, and I'm an author, to more than anything is them watching me do the one-man show. Now, first off, my oldest son isn't interested in most things I'm interested in, but if the comedy special's on, he stops and watches the whole thing.
That means there's an inner desire in there also somewhere.
So I'm like, so that's really cool, right? So it's brought together, and I've had my cousins, I've had uncles, I've had like, you know, my parents, my in-laws. They've all come and watched me do this. So I get to just share and be more connected to my family than ever before, because I have to be a better receiver and ask for support, and then have that support feel like love, because they're laughing, they're having a good time, they're
with
excited
you and at
like,
you
I
and
didn't
everything.
know you had this. They're like my father-in-law stood up in the balcony because I told this joke at the end. I'm like, this is gonna be awkward with my father-in-law here, and he just stood up and clapped, and then he had no clue that I could do this, right? So it's really cool that I'm just out of my comfort zone and enjoying it. And enjoying that process. I mean, it's not all enjoyable. It's not enjoyable to fill an audience as a rookie.
Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that part.
Oh, man, and it's been like a little miracle every time, because guys like you go, I got your back, dude. I'm going to invite people. I'm going to show up. I'm going to tell everybody about it. And without good friends like that, I would be performing to, like, when we were in Vegas, the guy emails and he's like, hey, we're a few days out. Nobody's bought tickets from our site. I'm like, oh, cool. We sold plenty from our site, but that's all because it's all you guys rallying around it, you know? So
I love it. I mean, I'll tell you what's interesting about you saying this about comedy. It got me clicking. I really appreciate the kind words. I don't think I could have got my wife to sit down at the end of the night and watch a financial episode of yours, even if it was funny. But the fact that you just did comedy is the gateway drug to get somebody involved. And the last thing I'm going to say is this, because I know you love inspiring and watching people grow. Your son, did you sit down with him with a pen and paper and go, here's how to be a comedian, or did he just watch you live?
All right, so he just watched it. And when he learned sarcasm, I felt like my life got better. So one day, I'm just laying down with my wife, and he comes over and cuddles with us. He's probably 12 at this time. He's like, Mom, is that your leg? I'm like, no, son, that's my dick. And he just busts out laughing, right? I mean, it's like so inappropriate. And then like anytime he gets something or does well, I'm like, dude, I'm amazed. I never even thought you'd be able to leave the house. Like, you know, and we just tease each other.
So you're motivating him through sarcasm.
Yeah, and he just pushes right back on me. He's like, I can't believe that people laughed tonight. Like, I was surprised.
So you're building his confidence.
Yeah, because like, and then so the first night he ever did comedy was at Wise Guys Ogden, my favorite hometown club. And I'm sitting there nervous because I'm trying new material. And it's his first time up. I'm like, hey, you want to run through your stuff? He's like, no, it's cool. You want to run through yours? I'm like, yeah. So I'm running through my jokes with him. He's encouraging me. He's stone cold. He's out talking to the crowd before. He gets up there. They laugh because he's got charisma. He's like, I didn't even say anything funny. What are you guys doing? Like, it's just really cool to watch. And when all of my family with the one-man show, which has really deep messages in it, and I act out 4 characters, and I play guitar in it, and I do spoken word because that's what we need is more 44-year-old white rappers, you know. But like my sister just got a tattoo with the name of the play, and my little nephew comes and watches it, and he knows the 4 characters, and he knows which character he is, and he knows which characters his parents are, so they understand their money persona from the time they're young. My youngest son's always like, hey man, I just watched Parks and Rec, and I think I know who the 4 personas are. Here's this person, this person, this. Hey, I just watched The Office, and here's the 4 personas. And I'm like,
so they're finding it everywhere.
So how cool is that like these kids are getting something? It's not me saying, let me tell you about money. Let me tell you about finance. It's just happening because they're bringing it to me because it's engaging and entertaining enough for them. I think it could be entertaining and engaging for the world if I do this right.
So how do we get? I love this. How do we get everyone in front of the 4 personas? How do we? What's what we talked about? You've had a million different. You've been sharing this stuff for a while.
GarrettGunderson.com/quiz.
Okay, so there's the quiz.
Yep. There's no cost for it or anything like that. I think right now there's probably an opt-in in my new book. I'm not even gonna have people opt in. I'm just gonna give it to the world. Yep. But,
okay.
I think right now.
What happens after they know the personas? Because I understand the personas.
I've done some videos that
Yep.
give them a little bit more depth. And I have a digital course that goes in really depth with a playbook and an audio that goes along with it, so you can understand the different questions that are inside of that persona's mind and how their winning persona would look to answer that versus the shadow persona. And look, it's not that we're all of any one persona. Based upon extreme circumstances, we might revert back to the persona we were when we were children.
I switch back and forth.
Yeah, I'm a miser when things are feel really chaotic and out of control. Yep. Like I'm like, well, maybe I should cut back. Maybe I should spend less. Maybe we shouldn't go. But I realize that's
a go-to. It's a go-to.
The trap.
Yep, it's a go-to.
I've gone through enough that I can go, oh, that's not going to help.
Yep.
But back in the day, that's what I would have went to.
Yep.
And my wife said, you were no fun. And my kid's favorite thing to do in the world is to hear stories of me, the miser. Like when my father-in-law was like, hey, if you want to move into our basement rent-free, when I first got married, he goes, that's cool. So I tell my wife, I'm like, your dad said we can move in the basement rent-free. She's like, sex-free if you think that's where I'm living. Right, but the kids love hearing that story. Or one Christmas I bought her a case for her phone, but it didn't fit her phone. It was just cheap. It was on the dollar rack. She's like, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, oh, you can just take it out when you answer. She's like, what is wrong with you? Like, these are the stories my kids love to hear because they don't know that guy. But that's who I was.
We've been that guy, though, so you can relate to that guy.
But the best part is one day my oldest was like, well, why was Dad like that? My wife goes, it's just the best how he knew. It's the best he knew to provide for the family at the time.
There was an old version of you.
I was like, oh, God, that's so helpful and healing because I was still judging myself for it.
Really? Up to that point?
Yeah, because, one time my wife said, well, we've been married 20 years. And, like, for her, she's only been married to one man. But, like, this is my 27th version,
Got it.
And so she's like, yeah, that first year was the worst year. I was like, why? She's like, I was a teacher. You wouldn't even let me spend money on the classroom. Everything was about budgeting. Everything sucked.
You were that boring financial planner.
Yeah, dude, I was bought into that.
Oh.
I was following Susie and Dave,
the Prudential.
I was like, I read The Millionaire Next Door. I'm going to be a broke, miserable millionaire.
I'll redo my shoes. Yep.
Yeah, that was me.
I love it. Well, I love this version of you. I got to tell you, I've watched the transition
Thank
in our half a decade or almost 3/4 of a decade I've known you right now. And I've got to tell you, it's been awesome watching this. Your aliveness is incredible. I wish we could go on for another decade, but I'm excited to see the show tonight. And we've got stuff we've got to do. So the next big steps for everybody, you'd say, if you were to give anybody just some big advice, they're watching this right now. And if anybody got to this point, there's two things I believe they want from you. Number one is they want you to be that step one for them. I'm just telling you right now, they're watching this. Some of them have me already, but it would be great for you to be an additional step one of like the accountability. What would you tell them to do right now? One thing, and then just in their life to step into whatever it is, comedy or whatever to step into. And number two is just really what to do when it comes to their wealth and finances and everything. And we'll close up shop from there. So this is put you on the spot, comedian.
All right. So if you go to GarrettGunderson.com/comedy, you can download this book for free.
Okay.
And you can also download my most popular book of all time, What Would the Rockefellers Do?
I love that book. I love that book.
Yep. It was crazy. I just had a mentor who used to just shit on me all the time back in the day. He's like, I don't know why people are paying you so much money, just because I was young in my 20s, and he's old. And then I met with him 3 weeks ago because I was doing comedy in Dallas, and he showed up with What Would the Rockefellers Do? Marked up from cover to cover. He goes, my financial planner gave me this. He says, this is the best book on money. I now buy it for every person I know. And he showed me stacks in his car. I'm like, it's crazy to me. So it was really cool. Like now we're back in a really good relationship.
Yeah, it's great.
Through all that. But you can have both those books. This one, Killing Sacred Cows, is philosophical. How do you get permission to succeed when it comes to finance and avoid the traps and missteps that destroy wealth?
Yep.
What Would the Rockefellers Do is ridiculously practical. It's very simple. It's kind of a one-trick pony through half of the book that says, if you're going to save money, here's the place to store it. Not where to invest long-term, but here's where you store it so you get better returns than a savings account. You protect it from liability and bankruptcy and taxes. And then what do you do to pass on a legacy like the Rockefellers? So that's that book. You can have those as a great guide. My company, I sold Wealth Factory, has actually grown substantially since I sold it because
you got away from it.
Because I got away from it. I was treating it too boutique. So there's great resources there. You can go to wealthfactory.com/private if you want to build a financial team, yet you don't have a huge amount of money. If you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars, Wealth Factory is not for you.
Yep.
If you are earning decent money, but you don't know how to keep more of what you make, they've got a brilliant
great
team.
programs. Still running events and stuff?
They aren't running events as often, but I am actually running an event coming up.
Okay.
This one's for people worth it doesn't matter how much you're worth, but it's tax strategies for people that make at least $650,000 of taxable income.
Got it.
but can't be W-2 because there's not a lot I can do for you. But business owners making $650,000 and up, they can just email me Garrett, Garrett at freeflow.group, and you know that doesn't go to me.
Nope.
We all
because
figured
you delegate. You delegate.
Garrett
You've already told everyone.
Garrett at freeflow.group, not .group.com. I know this is confusing for some of the old school people. Garrett at freeflow.group.
Wow,
Group. I don't know.
He probably knows about dot groups.
Yeah, dot groups. So for Garrett, and then you can ask about that, and we can get you some information. But that's like we're doing tax arbitrage all day long. I'll tell some jokes. We're gonna do a comedy show that night, but we're just gonna put a lot of money in people's pockets.
I love it.
Last person that I talked to one-on-one saved him $1 million in the first 10 minutes. So that's not.
That'll
bad.
make him smile. Make him laugh to listen to your jokes better.
But I'll leave with this: vision is different than a goal or an objective. So to get past average, you understand better than anyone, we have to get to a place that's beyond our current capabilities or what we think is our current capabilities. And we need to suspend three things: how much money we have, how much time we have, and how much ability we have. Because that's all stuff that we can collaborate with other people if we're clear enough about our vision. Vision is the rarest commodity in the world, and it drives all value, and dollars follow value. So if we can create a vision that's so compelling it would take our lifetime to accomplish it, we create a life we don't want to retire from. And we create a win because our vision is our win that we live into. So look to collaborate, look to co-create, eliminate your escapism, delegate along the way so that you have more capacity, and do something that's a bit uncertain.
I love it. And I got to tell you the example. This is so cool watching this, because watching you do this inspires me. It takes a lot to, I get inspired by lots of things, but just watching you live, watching this transition really inspires me. There's all kinds of things that I'm working on. I'm going to apply what it is you're sharing, and I picked up some great stuff today. My biggest excitement thing that I got out today was the recalibrating something that I believe about the way that we live affects the people around us. And this, you didn't have to teach your child comedy. He osmosis through the way that you live. He's going to enjoy his life more if he chooses to. That'll be his choice. You made your marriage even more exciting. You made your relationships better and everything else. So you're just a prime testament of like living the life that you want to live impacts the people the greatest way. And against the things you shared of just work your ass off the rest of your life, you will be miserable for the rest of your life. So find a way to live the way you want to live. You'll impact the people in your life a lot better than just saving money and only taking them on vacation.
Hard work and the wrong philosophy equals misery.
Yep, I love it. We'll end with that. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks,
Thank
brother.
you for having us out. And definitely take a moment. We'll put the links. We'll make sure you get access to all of those. Make certain to get the book. Get this book, definitely from a philosophical standpoint. Also, definitely get the practical book about the Rockefellers. But the really cool thing, I'm just going to tell everyone, is get the quiz. Learn, because you are going to literally take apart every TV show, everything you do, and it's going to be massively powerful. So appreciate it, and catch you on the next Average Suck show.
Most of the time when we think we have a money problem, money's the symptom. See, there's other forms of capital, our mental capital, our relationship capital. So you might be one idea or one relationship away from the next level of prosperity. But only when you can find out what the obstacles and what the errors are when it comes to our financial matters. That's what we're doing here at this channel, helping you navigate this crazy complex world of money in a way that taps into those hidden resources. And when you become more resourceful, you'll end up with more money that you can enjoy today and in the future. So check out this next video and you'll be well on your way.